Hi everyone, I'll be presenting to you this time a large team game. I know we've been talking a lot about small 1v1s and the likes, and for a change I'll be showcasing a game I played recently. It was 8 versus 8, and yeah, it went really well. Let's say that. Things went exactly as hoped, and okay, sure you won't be able to do this every single game, but I think this is what ideally looks like if everything goes accordingly. And what I want to talk about a lot is about the average play, and then the opposites of that, the extremes, the greed and the aggressive play. So in the average play, you just kind of do everything at the same time, and with greed, instead, you don't make any units and you go very economically, meaning you look for getting maxes, getting build power, increasing your energy, and so on. And then with aggressive, you don't look for any of that, and you go pure units and you attack the enemy. Now here, this is a quite large map on Bismuth. This means that it takes a really long time for units to get over to the enemy side. So pure aggression is very difficult because by the time your units get to the enemy, they won't. They will have something to respond to it a lot easier. And this is what we bank on because we're going the other way. We're going very greedy. Greedy mean we'll mostly be making construction vehicles. We'll be making one scout just to make sure that the enemy doesn't attack us, and we have two scouts. We'll see if the enemy comes with something. So we can play very greedily and still be safe because we know that the enemy is not sending anything our way. We're putting in long queues for our construction units. There's one enemy tick coming our way. We'll deal with that with our Rascal. And okay, we started on the 2 mechs spot here, which is fewer mexes than the 4 mechs in the back. So if you want to play greedy, well, why do we start there? Well, because it's closer to the mexes in the middle. So this way we can expand forward and backward at the same time. And while in the very short term we get less metal, afterwards, once we get all mexes, we'll get them faster and we'll get more metal this way. I really want to make sure this tick here doesn't get in our base and harass us. Because if the enemy gets units in your base, then you're forced to build units, and then you can't play as greedily anymore. You see, we have very little metal, so we can't really afford too many units in between. What we want to do with our scouts is harass the enemy. Melody here, my ally in my lane next to me, is a really good player, by the way, is doing a really good job of harassing the enemy here. Unfortunately, ours here get destroyed. Ideally, I guess what you want to do with this, with your few scouting units, is one, you want to force enemy to make units, so that delays their economical build-up. And secondly, you want to, the units that they do make, you want to keep them busy as long as possible, because while they're busy on as far away from you as possible, they're not in your base. That means you can do economic stuff for longer. You'll notice here we're also reclaiming our lab. This is because we want to build a second lab here at the front. So here we've reclaimed most of the mexes. We're almost in the middle. We've done our greed. We've started with loads of construction units with barely any attacking units. So economically we'll be quite well off. After that, we will want to switch over to making units because I mean we will have to, right? For that, we can make units in our base with the lab that we have, but it takes a really long time for those units to get over to the front. And by the time that they get there, with the metal that we have and everything, that's inconvenient. So what we want to do, we want to build a lab at the front. This also allows us to build really slow units, and the slow units will immediately be already by the enemy and ready to be used and so on. So this is an incredibly efficient way to do it. We're building some build power as well because we'll have a lot of metal, so we need to use that metal. And while we're ready to make a lab at the front, we'll make a bot lab because we feel like doing a thug push, and since we already have a vehicle lab, we might as well put out a few vehicle units just because we won't be able to have vehicles later, and then this way you have a really good synergy. So we focus out the last units. We build our last few vehicles here before it's reclaimed. With the tuck push, these pounders are really good because the pounders are good against swarms, and swarms is one thing that's really good against tucks, so they synergize with the tucks really well. And we can push with our commander. Our lab is reclaimed. We have loads of metal now to be used into tugs. We're slowly building up our energy in the back. And all right, we're ready to push basically. Our tug production at the front starts, and the enemy is not here yet. He has a few pawns, or grunts, which we'll deal with easily with our pounder. And yeah, we're ready to start. We're ready to push here. We'll have a lot of units at the front. The enemy will have reinforcements much later. So this is good for us. We have to watch out for the enemy commander. We just want to make sure that the enemy commander does not get in our red circle here. If he gets into a red circle, he can comm bomb us, and if he can comm bomb us, we lose a lot of the momentum. So we still want to damage the enemy commander to make sure that he can't just walk to our lab and destroy it. But other than that, we want to keep safe of it. We also don't want the enemy commander to kill most of our army, so we have to keep a safe distance, make sure we don't lose too much. At the maximum range possible, we harass him. There, he explodes, we only lose a single unit. This is ideal, perfect scenario. We just lost one unit. He lost his commander. He can't attack us because we still have our commander and our units, so this is perfect. So now we're ready to push. Enemy commanders are really troublesome for hard pushes because, again, they can comm bomb, and also later we will want to make drones, the blade wings, and commanders are really good against those. So if you eliminate commanders, it's super, super good for us. So we push, you notice the enemy doesn't have as many units as us because they have to come all the way from his base. It take a long time to get there, and so on. So we're ready for pushing. We get the metal from the commander, which means we have low energy and high metal, which is normal after a high influx of metal. We will have to correct for that in a little bit. And we're kind of against the clock here. We have to attack as fast as possible, as much damage as possible. And this is why you notice we're already switching over to grunts. These tugs, we've killed the commander, we've already killed some of the front line. This will be enough to destroy the remaining defenses, and after those defenses are down, we want to rush in through the gap as fast as possible with our fast units, the grunts. This will allow us to attack their enemy base much faster than these tugs would otherwise. And we already have enough to break through anyway. So, because if we don't break through fast enough, the enemy allies, who've now built a front line and who can defend from our allies, they will come to help. They will come help, and if some of them have techs, they will bring pyros, they will bring all sorts of units that will be troublesome for us, and then we'll stop our push, and then we have to come back to our base, and then we have to build up and everything, and it just stops the whole momentum of all this. So now that the defenses are mostly gone, we can move in with our fast assault units, our grunts that will try to take out bases basically, while our thugs here are pushing, attacking the LLTs. The LLTs are really good against our thugs, so we take care of them with our thugs in the meantime. We're also building an air lab now, which will make our drones, so the drones will be really good against any additional defenses that they have. Drones are really bad against commander, so because the commander can shoot them down, and the commander can also make really quickly those AA defense turrets. So here we've breached through, we're arriving at the base. This is perfect, this is exactly what we want. We want to take out enemy production of units. This allows, and this basically stops the enemy from defending, and then we can continue to move on to the next player to try to take them out, and so on and so forth. Our drones are out. They're ready to assist our assault. Here we're taking out the last of the two commanders at the top. Everything is working perfectly. We haven't seen what Lexon here has done, so we have to be a tiny bit careful. But because not that much time has passed, it doesn't have that much metal, he hasn't been able to do that much yet, so we just want to, as fast as possible, take him out. He's building bombers here. He hasn't built many yet, because it's still really early. And so we don't want to leave him alone and not do anything. We want to take him out before he can do much of anything with it. Since we already have an air lab, we move in some fighters in the mix, so if he does come through, that'll be fine. We bring in our drones, it kills the defenses of the enemy, and then we can, well, EMPs them rather, and then we can move in with our units and we take out this base. So this is already 2 players now after this that are taken out. Quite important here to not give too much time to the enemy, so we want to keep moving. Melody is already moving up to the 3rd player while I take out the top player, so this is really good. Fast pace. This allows us to really put pressure on the enemy. Ideally, now our teammates are still pressuring the front. If our allies are pressuring the front, this will be much more difficult for the enemies to come help us, because they will also have to defend their front. Often the case, you'll notice in team games this is not the case. People will tech up or do other things, but it's fine. Since we're really fast, we're able to move forward really fast. This is good for us. So what we're doing here, we're building transports, and we're picking up nano towers. Because our lab now, even though it was built on the front all the way, it's the distance now, you see the distance traveled for the units are super long, so between the time of the units getting created and arriving at the enemy is so long. We want to build closer to the front. So we've reclaimed our bot lab and we're transporting the nanos all the way up to the front to be ready to pump out units, because we have tons of metal. We have so many maxes now, we've reclaimed so much, we have so much more to reclaim. So we move forward with our commander. Commander has a lot of build power. He's really good against enemy units. So overall, this is a really good guy to have as forward as possible without being too much in danger. We want to attack enemy production, so they can't respond to us too much anymore. And while we have all this build power here, we have this lab, we might as well make bombers, something that we will be able to use further to attack economies that we can't reach out just quite yet. Missing D-guns, it's a little bit embarrassing, but unfortunately here the nanos prioritize healing the commander instead of building stuff, which is a bit unfortunate for us because we want to mostly build stuff. We want to build units, we want to keep attacking basically. No time to stand still, no time to build a maxis here, we have tons of metal already anyway. We'll be making grunts at start, it's quite good. Unfortunately we have so much metal, we have so much metal production, and I mean, one good thing about grunts is that they're super cheap, but that means that we won't be able to spend all the metal that we have just on these grunts. We'll bring in more nano turrets, but this still won't solve it, so we're harassing the enemy eco here. This is one problem that happens with this, is the more enemies that you start harassing like this, the more attention you bring to your side, and then the enemies will come to attack you, and you have to be ready to defend basically. The more wasp nests you poke, you know, the more problem you have. It's good for your team because, you know, if they're focused on you, they're not focused on your allies and so on. But you then have to make sure your allies are making use of that as well. So here our allies are in some trouble. They're being attacked very heavily on the front. So this is extremely valuable. What we're doing here, we're taking pressure off of the rest of the map. We're destroying unit production and so on. This is extremely good. What's happening here? Fortunately, like I said, we're not able to spend all of our metal. We've just brought in some new nanos, but we're going tech 2 because yeah, we need to spend our resources. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sumos. Now, normally, if you make sumos in your own base and you let them walk all the way over here, by the time they got here, the enemy would be able to build up so much that they would like not be that effective. Since we're building them here, they're super slow, they cost a lot, but those two factors are not an issue to us, so we're able to make use of them really, really well. Here we go, and There we go. We build them immediately at the front. This is perfect. This is exactly how we want things to be. We still have a lot of reclaim, so we don't have to worry too much about metal. There's so much metal to reclaim. We don't have to worry about any of this. We've built our bombers. Since Sumos cost a lot of energy, we want to stop building our bombers. 5 is enough to destroy loads of wind, so this is pretty good. Like we stop the bombers to build our Sumos. We bomb some wind here. This will make it even more difficult for the enemy to defend. We see there's an opening in the enemy, so we move in with our grunts. And yeah, we're doing really well. This is pretty much game over at this point. We have our Tech 2. They're still on Tech 1. We're moving with Tech 2 from behind our own base. We destroy a commander there. We're not even looking. We reclaim our air lab because we don't really even need it anymore. Alright, we're moving in yet another base with our Sumos. This is basically game over at this point. Bombing some more, destroying the base here. There's not much they can do. Alright, so you'll notice here the enemy will give up quite soon. And it's about tempo. It's about first starting with the greed and then continuing with the hyper aggression and then never relenting. Of course, it can happen here that your hyper aggression doesn't work out. It gets stopped. Maybe something unfortunate happens, and you have to be able to swap over to something else. You have to be able to do something else. But this is like the best case scenario. If you're able to punch through, if you can keep it up, this is what you can do. Still only 15 minutes into the game, and yeah, the game is over. So I hope you enjoyed this demonstration of what is possible if you're able to be really aggressive and kind of unrelenting in the aggression. If you have any questions, if you have some games where you played and you don't really understand what went wrong, why it didn't go so well, you thought you played well but still lost or something, let me know. Share the replay. I can have a look at it. Maybe I can make a video out of it, and we can all learn together. If you have other specific type of gameplays you'd like to know more about, share with me. And yeah, alright, this was the game. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. See you around. Cheers.